and I'm here to talk about what you do with the boiling water that she just created for you. So I'm going to talk about an unhealthy food that comes in styrofoam. And you're wondering why we would talk about that? Well, there are three reasons. The first, there are great lessons to learn from it. The second, it was captured in a great Japanese comic book. And the third is that I'm already behind, so let's skip that one. So here we go. Oh, it's less than an Ignite presentation. 1970s ramen company, Nissin Foods, was behind. They were facing bankruptcy. So the president wanted to expand to the US. He brought in a team of people. He said, I need you to create a new product. I want instant ramen in a cup, 3 minutes, everything in it. All you have to do is add water. Easy, right? Okay, but nothing like this had ever been done before. So he brings in this team of people, and they don't know how they're going to do it. And they would have never actually accomplished it if the president didn't have such faith and such confidence in his vision. He was able to inspire them to actually take on this challenge. So the great thing is that they accepted the challenge. They embraced these constraints. And there's something really remarkable about embracing constraints. They didn't say, okay, 3 minutes, no, we need 4. Instead, they said, we'll make this happen, like a 5-minute presentation. So they had a lot of, the first challenge they faced was they had to come up with a container design. And the container had to actually both hold boiling water, cook the food, and actually be something that people could carry and use. So how did they do that? Well, they came up with thousands of containers with lots of different materials. And they went through this iterative design process, right? And I love this description. Ideas piled on top of ideas, like this trial and error process and what comes out of that. And that's the way to really create great products. And in the end, they actually did this. It took several months, but they actually created a container that now we don't think of it as revolutionary, but at the time was. It was new material, never been used before in this way. But that was just the first challenge. The second challenge was the president said, I want toppings. I want meat and vegetables. They need to cook in 3 minutes as well. And none of the food drying techniques of the time were able to do this. So how did they solve the problem? Well, they used freeze drying. And I love this because here it is, lightning in the background. Only in Japanese culture could you get this, right? This minor moment, but it was great. And it was great because Ohana-san actually wasn't trained in food processing. He was actually trained in food chemistry. That's how he knew of this. Unfortunately, food chemistry didn't help him find red shrimp. And red shrimp is what the president wanted because it was a delicacy in Japan. But he was limiting himself, he wasn't thinking about all the red shrimp in the world. And there are 2,500 different types of red shrimp. So he found the red shrimp by going to a bar and having a shrimp cocktail. His Obi-Wan sort of statement, this is the red shrimp I've been looking for. So now the final piece is the noodle cooking. They had already decided on the container, and the noodles were either frying on the outside, burnt, or weren't cooking all the way through. They had to figure out a way to address that. And the way to address it actually turned out to be really simple. And what they did was they reduced the number of noodles in the container. They actually put the noodles so that they attached to the side of the container, and the water would go through the noodles and cook them. And then when they were done, they floated. But like any revolutionary product, people weren't ready for it. People weren't ready for the iPod. They thought it would suck. The same thing with cup noodle. People thought that nobody would buy it. It was too expensive. It was redundant, all of this sort of stuff. And so they realized that they needed to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to sell this product. And they realized that they were selling it like they did ramen. And in fact, what they needed to do was they needed to talk about the convenience of the product and the time savings associated with it. So they did that, and the other thing they did is they went and they sold it in a different way. They went to Ginza, the major shopping district in Japan, and they gave it away free. And they used this for 2 days, and after 2 days they had lines around the corner with people who were interested in trying it out. So word-of-mouth advertising. So now you know the secret of cup noodle. The freeze-drying technique kept the nutrients and the color. The noodles being put in the container in a certain way kept them so that they could cook, and the cup itself served 3 purposes. But this isn't the amazing part. The amazing part for me is that for over 20 years, cup noodle has been disaster relief food. It was part of the way that we addressed the USSR's collapse, Katrina, the Asian tsunami. There are warehouses full of cup noodle for the next disaster. And the final thing is that I love about this comic book is celebrating these small victories along the way. When you create a new product, whether it's finding the red shrimp, or figuring out freeze drying, celebrate each one of them. And thank you very much.